Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to do my makeup, but I'm also gonna tell you all my tips and tricks for doing 75 hard. I have my iPad here, so I'm gonna be reading off this. I've done 75 hard twice and I just completed my most recent one, so I have all the tips and tricks for you. Let's just start with the rules of 75 hard, and I'm gonna go from easiest to hardest. Easiest one is taking a progress photo every day, and then it's no alcohol, drinking 1 gallon of water every day, 2 45-minute workouts, and then one of them has to be outside, following a diet of your choice, so you can choose whatever diet you want, but just make sure there's no alcohol and you don't stray away from your diet. And then lastly, the hardest one in my opinion was reading 10 pages of a non-fiction book. So I'm gonna get into all of this. The first one, pretty self-explanatory, taking a progress photo. I feel like you just don't really notice on yourself if you're making progress because one, the scale doesn't tell you everything you need to know. This past time you can see my before and after, but my weight actually stayed the same. So it was a bit of body recomp, which is losing fat but also gaining muscle or keeping muscle. So that's my tip for the first one. That one's just easy. You just take a progress photo every day, try to do it at the same time. Usually I do it when I wake up. And then the next one is no alcohol. I feel like it's pretty easy for the most part. I've gone out a bunch of times. I've gone on an all-inclusive resort and didn't drink any alcohol. I feel like if you just cut it out completely and that's your reason for not drinking alcohol, you won't be like, oh, 1 sip of this, 1 sip of this. Drinking 1 gallon of water a day, that is kind of difficult. How I did it was just calculating how many bottles I needed to drink of my Stanley and then just going from there. You will have to pee a lot, and I work remotely, so it's a good thing, but it may be a little bit harder if you're always out and about because everywhere I went I needed to pee. And then next I'm gonna go into some tips I have for consistently working out. But a little bit of background is that when I first did 75 hard, I've already been working out consistently for like 3 years. The second time I did it, I've been working out consistently for 4 years. So if you don't work out consistently before you start the challenge, I know it'll be very difficult, but it was not the most difficult one for me just because I have already been working out consistently. So I'll give you a few tips. First one is just finding workouts that you like. So I've tried Pilates, I've tried Legree, I've tried running, I've tried hot yoga, I've tried regular yoga. My main workout that I do is lifting, and I like Legree and I like lifting the most. And this took me a long time to realize as well, but you don't have to do, just because everyone's doing hot yoga does not mean you have to do hot yoga. It was breaking me out, and I don't know why I had a Core Power membership for so long. I did enjoy it in the beginning, but if you don't enjoy it, just don't do it. And it also applies to workouts, like maybe you like yoga but you don't like hot yoga. Or within lifting, I don't like to back squat, and I forced myself to back squat for 4 years, but I learned I don't have to do it. You don't have to do it if you don't like it. My next tip is the time will pass anyways. I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory. The time is going to pass, and if you work out or not. The next one is really helpful. It helps with like waking up early too, but stick to the plan and not how you're feeling. My non-negotiable is going to the gym. So if I'm feeling tired, why would I not go to the gym? That's how I'm feeling. I'm going to the gym because it's part of my everyday routine. Does that make sense? And this applies to, which I struggle with more, is waking up early. I mean, granted, if you didn't get enough sleep, that's a different story, but if you did get enough sleep, you want to work out early in the morning, your alarm rings and you're so tired, don't snooze your alarm clock because you feel tired. Just stick to the plan. The plan was to go work out before class or before work. And this last one that specifically applies to 75 hard, I guess, is that there is no right time to do this challenge. So if you have had excuses of not doing the challenge right now because it's not a good time, when will be a good time, you know? Obviously some reasons are valid, like if you're going through something, but I went on 2 vacations during this last 75 hard, and I go on vacation with my family every year, so there isn't really a good time to do this challenge. You just have to work with what you got. Next is choosing a diet. So from the first time that I did 75 hard, I had a really strict diet. I measure everything. I didn't allow myself any cheat meals. And I would just give advice to not make your diet super strict, because after I ended 75 hard my first time, I just went back to my old eating habits. But now, this time I did 75 hard, I wasn't too strict on myself, and it just gives you room to have things in moderation, which is obviously better than restricting, and then you're going to end up probably binging. So my diet this time was just hit my protein goal and eat in a deficit as much as I can, and try to follow that 80% whole foods, 20% eating out, junk food, processed food, stuff like that. Last one, which is the hardest one, is to read 10 pages of a nonfiction book. And I feel like if you are like me, which is most people, one, I haven't been a big reader my whole life. I recently did get into fiction books, but the rule is nonfiction books, and that's when it gets hard. So last 75 hard, I read The Mountain Is You, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, and I read one more book. It's a yellow cover. I think it's You Are a Badass, something like that. So those were not bad, but this time I chose to read the Bible for my nonfiction book, and let me tell you, first and second time of doing it is so difficult, because you don't think 10 pages is a lot, but 10 pages of a nonfiction book, especially when you get into the Bible in certain chapters, it's a bit more difficult to read. Don't procrastinate your reading until the end of the day, because there are some days that you're just gonna be so tired and don't want to read and just want to go to bed. And I wanted to purposely read before I go to bed and not go on my phone, but I would split it up. I would split up your reading throughout the day, maybe lunchtime read a little bit, or even in the morning, and just split it up. I'm pretty much done with my makeup, but a few more additional tips is counting macros. So if you want to count macros, it's pretty easy to do. Just download the MyFitnessPal app, and I usually eat 1 to 2 servings of things that are recommended, and you just log that. You can get a food scale and just weigh it in grams. It should say on the back of the packaging how many calories are in 1 serving and then how many grams that is. So it's pretty easy, and you can just log into MyFitnessPal and then it'll tell you everything. Oh, and usually when the packaging, like chicken, like the nutrition facts and stuff, it's before you cook it. This is pertaining to measuring your macros and calories and everything. I used to weigh my food before I cooked it, and then cook it, and then I would weigh it again and then divide it by 4. Like, that doesn't make sense. Your deficit is mostly about consistency, right? So it's over the period of like a week. So you don't have to be so exact in every single day, if that makes sense. So what I do differently now is that I have a package of ground beef. It has 4 servings. I cook the whole thing and I just eyeball it into 4 servings. You don't need to measure it and divide it by 4. Like, that's just wasting time, because at the end of the day, over the course of, let's just say, 4 days, you're eating the same thing. Another thing that I learned was that, I touched on earlier, weight doesn't mean everything. So don't be so obsessed with the number on the scale, because muscle, when you gain muscle is heavier than fat. But you could use it as a tool to help you, but just don't be so fixated on that. And then my last tip is just that weekends count too. I think I struggled with that the most my first time doing it. I would eat super clean on the weekdays, and then when it got to the weekend, I would eat so badly. I don't know, in my head I was thinking that it'll cancel out, but it really does bite you in the butt if you really want to reach your goals. Just try to be more mindful. I know I was in college, so it was a little bit hard because you're going out, and I don't know. that is all my tips and tricks. I hope it helped you, and if you plan on doing 75 hard, good luck. I feel like it's one of the best decisions you can make for yourself. It just teaches you so much about discipline and putting your goals first and taking the necessary steps to reach your goals. So thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next video.